Said the Gawker report on Fox is horse. Really? Which part? Which part? Which part is? A few days ago, Gawker claimed Fox News had prevented him from coming out on air, citing anonymous sources who claimed Roger Ailes, network chief, didn't believe their audience was ready for a gay anchor. In a memo circulated yesterday, because they dismissed the Gawker report. Which parts? Staying there, of course. Well, okay. I guess the good news is he's out now. I don't know. I don't know which part is untrue.
Who can say?
All right. Political strategist Bob Shrum next on the Stephanie Miller Show. That's me. It is the Stephanie Miller Show. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy new job numbers. and Obamacare saved the economy from contraction. That's right. Thanks, Obama. No, really. Okay. Bob Shrum, you see him all over the TV, and now he pops out of the television right onto our radios. Hello, Bob Shrum. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
I did not know you were out here at the University of Southern California, my alma mater.
Yeah, I start in a month or so, and we're going to do some really interesting stuff, I think, in terms of teaching practical politics and doing some other programs. It's a chair called the Warshaw Chair of Practical Politics. Founded by and funded by an extraordinary woman, Carmen Warshaw, who was and proudly called herself the Dragon Lady of Democratic politics for about 50 years.
Good for her. Well, let me see two things. One, fight on for old SC. And number two, tell them...
Fight on for victory.
Right. Number two, tell them get off their duffs and vote in the midterms.
Well, that is the biggest problem that Democrats face right now.
I know.
Is getting these folks to turn out. I mean, Democrats have an advantage on almost every single issue that's polled, but the intensity factor favors Republicans. We saw what happened in 2010, and I think it could happen again in 2014.
Yeah, that's what I keep having that nightmare every night, Bob, because I'm a political geek like you. But yes, I have that cold sweat nightmare of 2010 again. And it must be frustrating to strategists like you that have watched this for so many years. You're right. If you look at each and every issue, American people way out ahead on every issue. Agreeing exactly with the president and with Democrats.
Well, but you have young people tend not to vote. Minorities tend not to vote in midterms. Now, the Republicans in 2012 thought young people were not going to turn out the way they had in 2008, that minorities weren't going to turn out, and African-American turnout was actually higher than white turnout in 2012. So the resources, and there is a shifting of resources going on in the Democratic Party, moving toward putting more money into get out the vote, voter contact, the kind of things that Obama did in 2012. So we'll have to see if that has an impact and can break the historical pattern.
Yeah, interesting. Well, and if any stories show how out of step they are with the mainstream, it's this piece you wrote, Who to Blame for Donald Sterling and Cliven Bundy. Yeah. Doesn't that show, in some ways, whether it's, racism, homophobia, any of this stuff we talk about, they are so out of step with the American public. You write, the Clippers owner and Nevada rancher will soon be forgotten as racist cranks, but if we want a new chapter of true equality and respect, we need a new politics, especially from the GOP. Because, as other people have pointed out, Bob, they just didn't use the polite code words that a lot of the mainstream Republicans do to say the same thing, right?
Well, this all started, when Democrats took up the issue of civil rights, when JFK and LBJ demanded a civil rights bill, and it finally passed in the 60s. And Johnson himself was aware that this could cost, and he said this, could cost the Democrats the South for a generation. But Richard Nixon, with the Southern strategy, kind of institutionalized this. It was a politics of resentment. And we reached the point wherein a lot of states in the South, you don't need to know someone's party registration. You just need to know what the color of their skin is, and if they're white, they're a Republican.
Yeah.
But it isn't just directed toward African Americans. It's also directed now toward women who are becoming more independent. It's directed toward gay people, and we see that all the time. It's directed toward Hispanics and immigrants.
Yeah.
It's I think a group of people who just aren't comfortable with the changing character of the country. This country is headed for being a majority of minorities.
Yeah,
and there are folks who can't stand that.
Right, and you say here the press could have spent news cycle after news cycle focusing on the tendency of too many Republicans to fellow travel with extremists such as Bundy if Sterling hadn't burst into the headlines. You know, I mean, that really, I mean, as you say, you also write, Bundy, too, will just be an empty 10-gallon hat if and when he's ultimately held to account. He will just be another right-wing crank who despises federal, benefits, except if it's lavished on him, a welfare queen of the purple sagebrush, as Paul Krugman said. But, yeah, as you say, Bundy's crude racism left Cruz, Paul, Fox News flee a lawbreaker they never should have embraced in the first place. I mean... Well, and, Rand Paul's trying to have it both ways. He's now out there. He went to the Kennedy School, the Institute of Politics at Harvard, and said that the Republican Party couldn't survive and couldn't thrive if every time you looked at it, it was just composed, every Republican audience was just composed of white people. But his rhetoric doesn't match his record. I mean, this guy who voted against the Violence Against Women Act, opposes abortion rights even in cases of rape and incest, opposes citizenship for children born of undocumented immigrants. He voted against ENDA, as you say. He's against letting same-sex couples marry. And he says there's no problem with voter suppression and no problem with blacks having access to the ballot in the South. I mean, that's all just wrong. But when you say that, and this is the Republican Party's dilemma, we were talking about 2014, and they do have an advantage, A, in turnout, and B, because the congressional districts are so heavily gerrymandered. But in 2016, they have a huge disadvantage in the presidential campaign. And it's not just that Hillary Clinton is, I think, going to run and going to be a very strong nominee. It is that the Republicans are far out of the mainstream of a presidential electorate. The rising America, the rising constituencies don't respond to the kinds of things that we just talked about, voting against the Violence Against Women Act, all that. That precludes you from being president. But as you point out here, Bob, you say, Rand Paul is not the exception, but a paradigm in a Republican Party that has doubled down on the Southern strategy. I mean, all it seems they have is these voter suppression things and gerrymandering, right, and dark money. Yeah, well, that's a way to temporarily try to hold on to or expand your power at the congressional level. Ironic, by the way, that they don't like dark people, but they like dark money very, very much. That's very good. I wish I'd thought of that one. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Thank you. But, I mean, go ahead. You have a situation where older white voters, and of course I'm older and I'm white, but I don't fall into this category, just can't abide what's happening in the country. And, when you look at these Tea Party rallies and they're screaming, "Take our country back," who do they want to take it back from? They want to take it back from the African-American guy who's president. Right. They want to take it back from the Hispanics who are becoming an increasing part of our population. That's right. They want to take it back from the women who are going out and pursuing careers and having lives instead of staying at home and just obeying their husband. Yes, I speak as one of those uppity women. Interesting, Bob. I'm reading a headline: Dark money independent groups dominating ad war in 2012. And, John Paul Stevens, as you know, just spoke out, former Supreme Court justice, and said, money is not free speech. And this is exactly what we knew was going to happen. Independent groups, especially those supporting the Republican Party, are dominating the air wars ahead of the 2014 midterms, according to a new report. Overall, independent groups, there they are again, led by the Koch brothers, accounted for 49% of the $62.2 million in broadcast and national cable advertising purchased for the 2014 election. And the majority of the spending during this time, 58%, came from dark money nonprofits that do not disclose their donors, and the majority of these groups support, of course, Republicans, right? This advertising backs up the finding that Republican donors have largely fled the disclosed world of super PACs for the anonymous world of dark money. So here we go, right? How big an effect is that going to have? Oh, well, it's going to have a big effect, and, it takes us back to the era of the robber barons in the 19th century, when they poured money into campaigns like William McKinley's and managed to dominate the process. That was broken when Theodore Roosevelt became president. But it's also why 2016 is so important, because the next president is going to appoint a series of Supreme Court justices. I think that's absolutely clear. And if you have Hillary Clinton, you're going to change the Supreme Court. This dark money thrives and exists now because of a 5-4 decision that essentially holds that corporations are people. And I think a subsequent Supreme Court can overturn that precedent, because that precedent is, A, new, and B, out of step with the court going all the way back to Buckley v. Vallejo when the original campaign finance reforms were passed. Yep. I mean, it's interesting. I call myself a happy clappy liberal because, and I do think that there's been a lot of media storylines that have been wrong, right? I mean,